Welcome to the Cocktail Club podcast by Cocktail Company. My name is Avinash Kafoli, and today on this episode, I have a very, very inspiring entrepreneur, Shweta Rajshekhar today, and she is from Namma Bengaluru. Right? She has created an incredibly amazing brand called the India Sweet House, and as you all know, that in Cocktail Club, what we necessarily do is we share stories and journeys of people from the F&B industry for our viewers who would maybe learn something from this and through their journey implement these things, a successful story. Right? I'm very, very excited to have this conversation with you.
So am I.
And one is that you are a Bangalorean. So first question is, which is your favorite filter coffee in Bangalore?
Baitu Coffee.
Baitu Coffee. Yes. I'm sure it's been an incredible journey for you from how India Sweet House started off. But I want to go a little bit before that as to where did this desire of entrepreneur start from? Was it there at the very young age, or while you thought about it while you were in college, or how did it happen?
Firstly, thank you for having me here today. And I'm equally excited to have this conversation with you. So I studied in National College. I was just out of college, and Avaktane I had started working. Very soon, my family got in conversation with our family friends.
Okay.
And we got married. I married my family friend's son.
Okay.
So that is Vishwanath for you. And he has been an entrepreneur from an early age.
Okay.
Antandre, starting from his age of 18.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So entrepreneurship in the family was not there.
Okay.
But I started seeing that from 21 years.
Okay.
Right. So that was my first instinct into this whole journey of entrepreneurship. Day in, day out, you see, what is going on because young age, right? You're curious about, how do people do business?
Right.
So I had many questions in mind. Lot of conversations over drive at home and, all of that. So you get into nitty-gritties because that was also a startup. Right. So you discuss a lot of things. How do you hire people? What kind of talent do you hire? What happens if it doesn't fit well? What's the implication of that? And
what kind of business is that?
Back then, he was running a BPO and a call center setup. So that was the age of international call center coming into India. Right. So India played that support function for many US-based clients and UK-based clients, and many Australia processes came to in India back then. I'm talking of 2005 to 7, right? 2006, 7, 8, those times. So in the age of international call center, Vishwanath saw the gap for the need of India-based call center, in the sense that services for Indian companies, it can be government-based projects. And here, any business for that matter needs a customer support.
Yes.
So he saw that gap and established a company that gave a call center support and a BPO support for Indian-based companies. So that is what he was running back then, setting up actually. We would talk a lot, because we saw the need together in the sense that of course, I never got actively involved in the business, but we would discuss a lot. Any service-oriented company, whether it's restaurant, like say, you need to take reservation. If there is any sort of grievance for customer, right, you need a support. So that's how I got into knowing what it is to, become an entrepreneur and, run.
But while you were worked in
yes, I used to be working back then. I was with Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
And then after a few years working there at Goldman, so I brought in the corporate processes.
Right.
How does it function there? Kind of my inputs to him was mostly, on putting up processes in place and things like that. And I went on to work with Tesco. After a short instinct with GS. Again, I was very closely working with the customer support function there.
Okay.
Okay, so customer first attitude to me I mean, it's instilled in my mind even before I really started something on my own like this, right? Those things, I started contributing to Vishwanath's business as well. I mean, of course, not directly, like I said, I was working, but yes, I did give my inputs wherever needed. So this is how I've seen, him run a business. And from zero to, having about 2,000 people on board, it's been a 15 years of long journey for him to kind of build that business there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You understood that your husband Vishwanath is running the business and you were working. But what was that spark or that desire which said you have to do something with Indian speeds?
Oh, of course, that's got nothing. That I must say that large businesses are built by accident, trying to solve a problem.
Yeah. What was the problem you wanted to solve?
What happened was in about working, like I said, I was working, and in 2013 I delivered and I took a break, didn't go back to the desk job.
Okay.
By then, his business had already kind of sorted,
Right.
He didn't have to involve in day-to-day operations. So we together thought that, okay, let's do something else, something that, because I had time that I could, afford to spare. Of course, he had by then sorted the company, right? So we thought that we should do some agriculture.
Okay.
Okay. We wanted to do organic farming. So
Okay.
before organic farming, we thought we first do agriculture to test the, new thing that
Right.
we're getting into, because completely moving out of corporate and, trying to do something radically different that you have no idea about. So we looked for options that did not really involve every day, like if you don't go there one day and,
Correct.
sky comes down kind of an episode. So something that's easy on us and that will grow on its own, and it's still value for the buck that you're paying, and you still need large land at a lesser cost kind of a affair. So we looked for, what crop may suit our requirement, and we figured out it's rubber.
Okay.
So we went looking for lands, and we found a piece of land near Madikeri.
Okay.
And we also had friends there, who, kind of supported us in saying, I'm around, it's okay, you all don't have to come all the way from Bangalore every, quite often.
So the
So-
fascination for farming was with you or with Vishwanath?
That's always there, right? People working in corporate want their farmhouse and want lands and things like that. So that was there. And we're nature lovers. So,
Okay.
I mean, anytime you want to think of a idea of holiday, we've never fancied places where it's urban. I mean, never looked for urban choices. It's always been, away from the city,
Right.
nature. That's what we like. So agriculture, farm, and being in the midst of nature was something that we both like.
Okay.
So that was the idea of looking at agriculture as an option. So we picked up some lands in Madikeri to do rubber and all that. However, we still didn't have much work to do because I had already taken a break. Said alongside we'll also do organic farming, right? That's when we picked up some lands near Hiriyur, which was accessible to Bangalore. Even if you grow something, you can still go bring it back home.
I mean, for our viewers, which part of Bangalore is Hiriyur?
On the Tumkur Road before Chitradurga,
Okay. Okay.
right? So because lands are a little cheaper there, so
So yeah, lands are cheaper in Bangalore.
not in Bangalore. But yes, it comes with its own issues of no water, the scarcity of water
Correct.
in that region. But we knew it. It was still an informed decision to go ahead with that, because we thought that somewhere we'll figure out a solution to every problem that may arise.
Yeah.
So we picked up some lands there, and to convert the land into, starting to do organic farming, we needed cow dung,
Okay.
right? So for the amount of lands we bought, we needed large truckloads of dung
Okay.
that was required. So, of course, I think you need cows for that. So you can't simply bring cows. So we started to, understand what it takes to, bring the cows in because it needs a certain care,
Correct.
right? They're not humans, they can't talk, but it still has to be treated in a certain way. So Vishwanath attended a dairy training program and understood, how this whole thing works. And it was just a day's training that we decided, okay, we'll bring in 100 cows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt here. You bought a land first in Madikeri.
Yeah.
And what did you grow?
Rubber.
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 And after how much time did you pick up the land in Hiriyur?
About a year.
About a year.
About a year.
And till then, you had not thought of India Sweet House.
Even when we brought the cows, we had no idea about
Wow.
India's Sweet House.
Okay.
It was mainly to do organic farming that we brought the cows.
Okay.
Okay.
And you got 100 cows.
We brought 100 cows because we thought that is the amount of dung you want to do the farming.
Okay.
Because we got about 60 acres land there. And that's a large piece of land. It was already a mango orchard. Okay. And I mean, if you know the surrounding area in that belt, that Tiptur, Tumkur, Hiriyur is all, people grow coconuts there.
Right.
So there were options of you growing coconuts, and since the land that we picked up already had mango orchard, so it was good Alfonso mangoes there.
Oh, wow.
And coconut was another option, along with we grew papaya and all that. So we needed so much dung, so which is why we brought in cows, about 100 cows there. I set up the whole dairy there with a Indianized shed and all that. Although we studied that, and there is also this other side of you where, which is constantly saying that, you're getting into something, you're actually bringing in life into your, into your life.
Correct.
Which needs more care than than yourself probably, because
Agree.
it's cow. It's treated very differently in Hinduism actually. So you can't tie them. That was our first principle, that you can't tie it.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And it needs to be treated very well. They are not machines
Good.
to give you milk or dung, right? So nothing can be forced upon them. And milk for sure, because you get so much milk out of it that it's primarily for the calf,
Yes.
right? But there is also this thing of, if you don't milk the cow, it's actually not right on the cow. It's not healthy.
Yes.
If you don't milk it.
Correct.
It's painful for the cow.
Right.
So you have to milk it twice a day. And what you do with the milk is your, headache.
Correct.
Right? So you set up that whole process, and you can't milk it with hand, because each time whoever is milking the cow, the pressure of the hand, you can't have the same person sit down and milk about 15-20 liters. It's going to take a lot of time. And the pressure varies as per however I'm feeling that day, that moment. If I'm angry, if I pull it hard, it's not right. So you set up that whole automated milking parlor where, by the suction it, you kind of milk it,
Exactly.
which is actually very good for the cow, because the pressure is uniformly consistent, right? And it actually, the suction releases when there is no more milk coming out of the udder.
Correct.
But there is lot of course, people say, why do you put machines? No, it's actually good for the cow, right? So we set up that whole thing. And now came the problem of, what are you going to do with so much milk?
Right. Yeah. I was about to ask you that as a question now.
Yeah. So after the calves drank, because calf hardly needs 2 to 3 liters of milk.
Right.
What after that, So we decided that, since your whole idea of farming is organic, you can't do package the milk in plastic cover or whatever. So we said, instead of putting this excellent quality milk, our fat percentages were anything between 4.5 to 5. It's very good thick milk. Okay. So we brought the milk home, and bringing it every day also, just bringing, going for 2-3 liters and, all the way till Hiriyur, bring 2-3 liters of milk home does not make sense. So whenever we went, We brought in about good, 5-10 liters of can, started giving it to our neighbors. You give it to them, relatives and friends. But how much can you do that every day, right?
Yes.
Then we said, let's bottle it and bring it every day,
Okay.
distribute it.
Okay.
So we started that initially.
Initially, when you started, how many liters of milk you used to bring to Bangalore?
So it started with really a small number of subscriptions because I didn't want to go to door and deliver milk, which was not sustainable, right? We lived in Malleshwaram, so you identified apartment complexes
Right.
with 50 homes, 100 homes like that. So brought in only so much, and the rest I gave it away to the nearby, dairy, KMF. So as you had more subscribers, we brought in as much as required. So that's how we started, and we called it Farm Fresh.
Okay.
Yeah. So under that brand, we started supply of organic milk
Okay.
to quite a good number of apartments around Yashwantpur, because that was the route we took. Tumkur Road, you come. So
But then you got involved in the business.
totally from there.
But yeah, Vishwanath did the trading on dairy.
He did the day. I did. So he looked at the production and the supply and all that.
Good.
I looked at how to go about putting this as a process. How do you bottle it? Do the branding and things like that. And of course, back in the farm, how to care for the cows and all that.
Right.
I brought in that and he brought in that. So together it was good, they're going very well. So when we were doing this whole supply of milk to apartments, we also supplied milk to bulk supply of milk to some sweet makers in Bangalore.
Okay.
Okay, because there was good chunk of milk supplying to one place, and you also did your B2C.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while this was going on in 2020, we had COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, we had this whole supply issues and, because the whole bulk of milk that was going to sweet makers stopped because it was no more a necessity. Because that time, I think
Yes.
what was allowed to be open was your necessities. Yeah. So sweet was definitely not a necessity. We had a lot of milk, excess milk that was left with us. We wanted to give it to KMF. KMF said we already have excess milk.
Oh, okay. And by that time, you had only 100 cows, or you had, based on the demand, you had increased?
We had increased it a little bit. Also, you have new births and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So we had reached close to about 140, 150 cows by then.
Great.
Yeah. So we were getting over 2,000, more than 2,000 liters of milk.
Milk every. Okay.
That's when we started to think that, because milk, what happens is if you don't boil the milk or pasteurize it, in the first few hours from the time it is out of the udder, it'll go bad.
Right.
It's a very sensitive product. So you have to address that problem initially, just from the time it is out.
Right.
So we started to think, how do you increase the shelf life of milk so that you have some time to think what you can do with it. So we started, pasteurization, and then you extract the cream, make it, convert it into ghee, kova, paneer, so that at least it gives you so much more time, right? As we started doing that, we of course had ghee, right, and kova and all that. So at home, we started trials of what can you convert this into.
Okay.
Then you have so much recipes from your, mom, grandmom, all of that.
Right.
Because there were many sweets that are, that you like, but you can't probably go out and eat.
Right. Give me an example.
Halbai.
Halbai. Oh, wow. Okay.
Halwa. It is such a beautiful state. Exactly. ಸೊ ನಮಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟ ಅದು. ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಇದು ವಿಶೇಷ ಹಂಗೇನ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಬಟ್ ಅಂಗಡಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ತಿನ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲೆಸ್ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟೀಸ್ ದೇರ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಥರದ್ದು ಹಂಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರುವಾಗ ದೆನ್ ವಿ ಥಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಅದು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಯಾಕೆ ಬರಬೇಕು, ರೈಟ್? ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್
ಯಾವುದೇ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋರನ್ನ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ಗಾಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವೇ ನಿಮ್ದು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಲೈಕ್ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ
I was
regional sweets which we make at home and I want to bring this. Is that the thought?
That was the thought.
Okay.
That was a thought that came about at home when you're doing all of this, right? But yes, we don't have the expertise, right? Absolutely. Avaga we, like, I mean, if you remember, I said that we were giving bulk of our milk to some of the sweet makers. So, alli hogi we spoke to a man. Itara, try ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. What do you think of it? How is it running this business for you? Do you think ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗತ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ಅಂತ. He had been doing this for 25 years.
Great.
So he gave us a good, extremely transparent guy. Okay. I don't think you'll probably have so much transparency and clear numbers, that ಇದು ಹೀಗಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಹೀಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೀಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. Okay. So we had this chat back and forth, we had many discussions, and we said, okay, you want to do authentic traditional sweets, and why should people come to you? Because they may not be probably able to find them, in other places in Bangalore.
Understood.
Right? So because Bangalore has as much as Kannadigas, it also has the others.
Yes.
Right? People from north, south, east, west, everywhere. Right?
Country.
So if they have to come to you, you have to give them a good reason to come to you.
Yes.
So ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಮನೆದೇನೋ, ಅವ್ರ ಊರ್ದೇನೋ. So they come looking for it. ತರ. So the
Which is the most underrated Kannadiga sweet, you think?
ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಹಾಲ್ಬಾಯ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ. Such a what ಹಾಲ್ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಅಕ್ಕಿ, ರಾಗಿ, ಗೋಧಿ ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಅದು ಸಚ್ ಎ ಸೆನ್ಸಿಟಿವ್ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋವಾಗ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ತೊಳಸ್ತೀರಾ. 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾದ್ರೂ ಕಷ್ಟ, 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆದ್ರೂ ಕಷ್ಟ. 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆದರೆ ಹಲ್ವಾ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾದರೆ ಅದು ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಆಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಶೇಕ್ ಇಟ್, it should just dance around like that.
Wiggle kind.
Yeah. So
that Korean dessert is becoming very popular. That's literally like the albai.
Yeah.
Right?
So ee thara. So we discussed and we did a very, very limited menu. Okay, like really, I mean, nangivaga, if I look back, how it all started, counter ಅಲ್ಲಿ 40-45 ಸ್ವೀಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚೆಚ್ಚು.
ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ನೀವು ಸ್ವೀಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಯು ಓಪನ್ ದ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ as India Sweet House?
I'll get there, yeah. So we said, okay, the menu is limited to what you can, bring on the table for across the country people. So so a name should resonate to everybody, right? And tomorrow it should be a pan-India brand because you're looking to address that crowd, right? Bangalore ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೀರಾ, next if you enter other states or maybe even outside of India, the name should still resonate to people and should sound also very familiar, right? It should not be hard to remember. Oh, ಅದೇನದು ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ತಿಂದಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಅಂಗಡಿ ಹೆಸರೇನು ಅಂತ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಥರ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ. So that was the idea of calling it India Sweet House. That is very easy to recollect and it's self-explanatory, right? I think India, sweets from India.
Correct.
That was it.
So you opened your first store.
So we decided that we'll open our first store in the neighborhood because we lived in Malleshwaram. So nothing like having it in your vicinity and being able to monitor every day. Anta. Soon we realized, we started getting, everybody were like, ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇವರು, ಏನು ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನೋ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಹಸು ತಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರು, ಇವಾಗ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಅಂಗಡಿ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Everybody in the friends and family circle were like, okay, what is wrong with these people? But I still believed in the idea and it had not even been 10-15 days. Enquiries started pouring in. ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಅಂಗಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನಮಗೂ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡಿ ಅಂತ.
ಬಟ್ ನೀವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಯಾಂಪಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ,
that was
how did you go about hiring the skill set? I know that you have a lot of women working in your organization.
Yes. The first store when we opened, I was an all-women team,
Okay.
totally. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Because I was looking at the front-end operation.
Mm.
So how we went about forming the brand itself was that I mentioned about the man who was extremely, approachable and open to the idea of, shared so much information about the industry and the nitty-gritties of running the sweet business, right? So, um, his so he was the manufacturer of sweets. Okay. He was with KC Das then.
Okay.
And his contract for sweet production with them had almost come to an end. So soon we joined hands with him, and he brought about the whole expertise and setting up the back-end kitchen. Okay, while Vishwanath looked at the business development aspect of it,
Okay.
because of course we did not have the expertise of running a sweet business, the recipes, and bringing the staff in the first place. You should bring the sweet makers.
Yeah.
So Rajesh, his name is Rajesh Mehta. So Rajesh took onus in setting up and running the whole kitchen.
Okay.
Vishwanath took the business development and looking at the finance and all of that. And I took into running the store operations in the front end with the all-women team and the whole branding exercise for the brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the design and how do you want the store? How do you want the customer experience?
Wow. What a journey, huh?
Yeah. So we opened our first outlet in Malleshwaram. We clearly wanted to be a traditional brand. So the way we had designed the store was, it was Atangudi patterned flooring and with stone pillars and wooden elements of wooden carvings in the store. If you looked at our box pattern, the design, how it was aesthetically designed, everything had, connection. You look at the box and you look at the store, you can see the patterns running into the box. So there was an element of tradition in everything, right? So an all-women team wore sari and greeted every customer that walked in, and
I think everything within that resonated what India Sweet House means.
Correct.
The way you're saying it itself. I've been to your store though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what I'd say is that being a woman, you tend to look at even the fine, nitty-gritties of how you want it, even in your house, right?
Yes.
You look at organizing the house itself, right? You look at wastage at home. You don't like food going waste at home,
Correct.
right? And how do you treat guests who come home, right? And how do you arrange things at home, whether guests coming home, how do you set up the table? How do you want to serve your customer, how serve your guests?
Atitya Devo Bhava. Yeah, that's in the culture.
So having an all-women team, I thought, would fix many things because you're good at multitasking, you're good at orderliness, you're good at hygiene, you're good at not letting anything go waste,
Correct.
and customer service. Atitya Devo Bhava. So that aspect. So I would say that being a woman, I brought about all these things that I otherwise saw as a gap in the industry.
Good.
Right? So
Okay.
very few places where you see all of it in one place, right? So quality, service, hygiene, taste, right? So if a customer has to come back to you, you should probably have all of this. Sometimes it's, you may compromise one or two, but finding a place with all of this is something that is ideal case,
Right.
And many a times in this unorganized sector, you do tend to compromise. Okay, where there is quality, okay, customer service may take a little back seat. Where there is ambience, taste may take a back seat. So, as a woman, I think I try to bridge these gaps because when I say I think women per se won't compromise in a few things for sure. And these are must-haves.
Yeah.
Especially being in the food industry, I think very, very important to address these things.
Right. So going back to your first store, you said you opened and after 15 days you started.
Yeah, so our own friends and family started saying, even I want to do it, because they believed in the idea. And knowing us, as a couple who done many things together, and so we soon we started our second outlet in Sanjay Nagar, where actually Vishwanath grew up. So we had a lot of friends and family in that area. And again came in the third store inquiry saying, I want to do.
So you started your first store, and after that you opened another store.
Yeah, in about 45 days, our second store opened.
Wow.
And actually not even 45 days, about 35 to 40 days, we opened our second store. And soon after, in about less than a month, we opened our third store as well. Right? So you'll be quite surprised. How
I am surprised.
By then, actually, we had not yet even drafted out our franchise terms and all that, because of course the initial few stores were still with the friends and family. By then we had decided that franchising is the way ahead, because there are so many more people who call India Sweet House as theirs, right? So you're creating so many new partners along the way,
right?
And instead of just saying, okay, it is Shweta and Vishwanath, or everybody starts calling and relating to the brand.
Yes.
And so many more ownership, right? While the franchise model that we run is still, a FICO model, which is franchise invested and company operated. The entire operation still remains with the company. But you're still creating so many more people who are associated with the brand. So after that, it was absolutely no looking back. So we designed our franchise, terms, and, almost consistently about one store every month till date. So it's been 3 years now of India Sweet House, and we have 35 stores across Karnataka.
Wow. And how many people are there in your team?
On an average, each store takes about 10 to 12 people, depending on the size. Some larger stores also take about 15 people. And in the back end, we have about 400 people at the production facility who support us.
So with all these 35 stores, how many SKUs do you have in each of these stores?
Yeah, so we've really evolved from the time we opened. Like I said, initially, our counter looked very about 45 to 50 sweets, to, I think, very few namkeens and chats, right? Because we thought that chat was a good add-on to bring people in, right? You may not walk into a store thinking that I'm going to buy half a kg of Mysore Pak or 1 kg of laddu.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But you may enter to grab a pani puri or a masala puri.
Correct, yeah.
Right? And then maybe taste a Bengali sweet or two and then take back something.
Agree.
Right?
Yes.
So we, like that, strategically, we have chats across all outlets. And chat started along with sweets. So we tied up with this brand called Chat Times initially, because we did not carry the expertise, or even Rajesh for that matter, did not have the expertise of making chats. We looked at a company who also had the capacity to scale along with us. That was very important, right? Because we did not have the vision of opening only one store or two stores.
Yes.
Of course, the timeline was something, miraculously quick. But we had definitely the vision of expanding, right? We came across Chat Times, who we thought had back then about 10 to 15 stores and had consistency in quality and had a good taste and, all of that. So we tied up with Chat Times, went about working with them with every store as we grew. Eventually, we realized that it's a good combination and the two companies merged.
Right.
So today, Chat Times is part of India Sweet House. And although it does have, a standalone Chat Time stores in several, even in, as part of restaurants. Like if you walk into any Pakshala, the Chat Times is there.
Okay.
So like that, we're tied up with few other restaurant brands where Chat Times is a shop-in-shop.
Okay.
So even for India Sweet House, inside Pakshala, some of the Pakshalas you will find us. So as one of the store formats, right? So we operate in a large store format, and then you have your about average 900 to 1,000 square feet of,
Yes.
store space. And then you also have the quick shop where, these kind of express stores that we run.
Great. No, I'm really curious now, actually, to ask you a lot of questions, right? But one question I want to ask you is, in terms of you scaling up, I mean, there is, of course, product, people, and everything, right? You must have also developed a lot of best practices, which is really working.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I think the corporate journey of 10 years, has brought about a lot of learnings for me to incorporate in this entrepreneurial journey. Okay. Because I think there are two things that have really worked very well. A is the kind of people you hire, and two is the processes you put in place.
Right.
Right? Because, see, when you hire people, right, they may be excellent in the way, in the kind of work they are doing, right? But there is also this adaptiveness to a startup,
Yes.
right? They may be extremely comfortable working in an already set up brand, XYZ, right?
Yes.
But there is a lot of cultural difference there, right? So because when you go there in any established business, you have everything ready, right?
Yes.
Let's say you want to start a new store, new outlet, I'm saying. Okay. So you write to the HR, I need 10 people for my store. HR will send you people,
Right.
right? And I need training for 10 people. You send an email to HR, they will send you trained people. Or maybe they will send you a training module,
Yes.
right? And you may send an email to your maintenance team saying water is leaking from the tap. They may send you, a technician to fix it, right? But what happens in a startup is that you should be a go-getter. You have to hire your team.
Yes.
You should look for people who will suit, this whole brand story, because you're expected to attend to customers, not just sell your product. It's not the mundane job of putting together, okay, one Mysore Pak, one Peda, one Barfi, close it and leave it. But who's going to smile at the customer and understand what they're buying it for?
Yes.
Are you buying it for yourself, or do you have a celebration at home? Are you expecting guests at home?
Which is actually what I want to know is, starting a store and then going to 35 stores in 3 years, and every month you're opening stores. So did you set up your back-end function already before you started, or it was going parallelly?
It was absolutely paralleling.
Wow.
Everything was on the go. So which is why what happens is there are no ready-made people for this, right? You got to train them. Basically, you have to drive the whole purpose into them,
Yes.
right? So you have dreamt of something, right? You've written your vision, right? And if that vision does not get, if you don't drive the vision into the people whom you hire, and you should make them believe in the purpose of the brand,
Yes.
right? And then it should get cascaded.
For you to be in a corporate job, and then, right, I've also worked in corporates. I was also an employee. I worked in restaurant, bars, and Bacardi, which is a corporate organization. What I want to ask you is, how do you shift that mindset from an employee to becoming an entrepreneur? And for you to build such a big brand, I'm sure you have taken a lot of risk, right? And how does that risk-taking ability come in? What drives you to do that?
I would certainly say that you've dreamt of something, that you're going to make it happen.
Right.
Right? So the vision of making it happen in the first place, because you see a clear gap there.
Yeah.
There is no one player who is giving you good quality, service, and hygiene, and taste, ambience, all of it. You see a gap there because we studied the market. You didn't really jump into it overnight, right? We took the entire COVID time to kind of see, okay, is there a need for a brand in the market in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? If there is a need, how should you position your brand?
Got it.
Right? So this whole activity kind of gave us the confidence that yes, there is a gap, and this is how you can bridge that. right? And we split our responsibilities, like I said. If you say, Shweta, you go run, do the production, you go run, do the operations, you go take care of, the customer service, you go do everything. That is not possible. So the experience of corporate, which said, put processes in place, put the right people in place, and the ownership of, being responsible for your, departments and your actions, right? So once you have that in place, then you're answerable.
Yes. So your product also, deep dives into a lot of this rich, culturally heritage sort of sweets, right? If I'm not wrong, you've picked a lot of maybe SKUs which are generally not available in other stores. So what are those, and how do you go about doing that?
The whole idea of India Sweet House was just that, that if give them a good reason to enter India Sweet House. They must be missing the traditional sweet from their region. Right? So we went about curating this menu, a lot of things are also not possible because, it's not just the sweet making, but sometimes, a lot of times the product also, the output of the product depends on the raw material in that region that you can source. And, the conditions of the weather conditions of that place, right? If you look at how India, people, food habits depend on the weather, climatic conditions in that region, right? So a lot of times it depends on that. So as much as we've curated these sweets from the traditional sweets from across the country, we've also, we've almost got it right, obviously. Any sweet for that matter, you can't get the exact taste,
Yes.
Tirupati Laddu today may be a wrong example to quote, but still, there is something about that Laddu that they give there.
Correct.
We're close to it. Yeah. It reminds you of it. It will not let you miss the sweet. You still can enjoy that, but you won't miss it. Yeah. So that was the whole idea of curating this menu. So Putrekulu. Right? You don't get it everywhere in Bangalore.
Yes.
There are huge number of fans for India Sweet House. People come to get the Putrekulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Not many people send it here.
Right.
So, like that, we've tried to do as much as we can.
So, but
of course, it's a journey.
What you source for your sweets comes from your farm, and then you're working with other vendors or suppliers.
No. So, only the dairy products come from our farm.
Okay.
Right? So the milk, ghee, kova. So today at 35 stores, for sure, our dairy cannot suffice to supply. So what we've done is we've identified, the dairies around our farm, in and around Nelmangla. We give them the feed, and we've set the guidelines for them. Okay, we give them the feed to the cows. And we've set a particular way of, handling this whole dairy and a fat percentage that, is expected. So we check all of that. The quality of milk is checked, and we source it from even the neighborhood farms today.
But the feed, whatever you provide to them, is grown by you.
Yes, that is grown by us.
In your farm, which is there in
Hiriyur.
Okay.
Not in Hiriyur. So we moved the entire, once we started India Sweet House, we shifted the dairy to Nelmangla. So today all the farm is in Nelmangla. Yeah.
Okay. So how many SKUs do you have currently in?
Today we have about anything varying between 250 and 300. With many traditional namkeens also in the menu today. Other than the fixed menu, we also do a lot of seasonal menu, right? So being a traditional brand, whenever there is a festival, you introduce the specialities that go with the festival, and for a limited period, and also when there is mango season, you introduce a lot of mango specialities and things like that. So anything between 250 and 300 is the kind of SKUs that we have.
Okay, great. So another question probably for our viewers, which I would like to ask is what would be your advice, or say a couple of do's and don'ts or must-dos if you want to become an entrepreneur as a aspiring young woman who wants to become an entrepreneur in the F&B sector?
In the F&B sector, okay. Yes. Sure. Like I said, I think we should first see a gap for the product that, you are looking to start. Yes. See, it's one thing to position yourself. Okay, I want to be ABC. But if your consumers are looking at you as XYZ,
Right.
right? So always do a dipstick this one survey and understand what are consumers thinking of you. You know, if ABC is at least BCD, it's okay, you know, but it can't be XYZ. So, and it's very important to drive your purpose even to the end person working in your, you know, organization. Because you may have dreamt of it in a certain way, but if the same does not get cascaded to the last person, right, it does not work. It does not work.
Okay.
And I would really say reward and recognize talent, because it's very important. You know, being a woman, you may do a lot of things at home. I understand it being a woman, right? If you don't get the appreciation, end of the day, okay, you've done so much for the house. I know how it feels, right? So please recognize and reward your talent,
Right.
right? So in our company, we do this annual rewards and recognition day. In fact, after Diwali, we close all our outlets. We close our factory for one day.
Okay.
We do a family day in a venue. We do a lot of cultural programs for them. Do an R&R program for them, and you know, they feel important. They feel recognized and rewarded for all the efforts that they put in. Right? Because they should not feel, okay, you know, I'm doing my mundane job. You know, every day the burfi guy will keep on doing burfi.
Yeah.
But how will he know that, okay, it's my burfi that is actually selling the most?
Yeah.
He won't know. I mean, of course, he may see the increase in numbers with the increasing stores, right? But they also should know that, you know, I'm being recognized for my work. It's very important. So please recognize and reward your talent. It's important.
Okay. And I'm sure with the growth, what you're going through, you are really busy.
Yeah.
And how do you manage work-life balance? And what is there something like that which you believe in, or how do you go about it?
Well, at least with me, I not felt that I'm working. Because
to be saying that.
no, I'm quite serious about what I'm saying. It so happened that my son was born around that time when we actually took the break, and he's only seen us talk all of this.
Okay.
You know, first came the farm. We took him. He was a 3-month baby when we first did our road trip to Madkeri, trying to identify plots. So we went with him. So he's seen it all, you know. He's seen it from identifying the spot. He may not probably have understood anything back then, but he's heard us talk. These are all conversations that has never happened in an office space, you know, because it's part of us, you know. You're talking this,
There is no life and work differentiation.
there is no life in
I agree with it.
And if people are wondering how do couples work, you know, together in the same place, I think I've answered that as well, because you don't really look at work as work. And if we're enjoying that phase, actually, you know, because it's part of you, you know. It's us.
I kind of get that. You're not differentiating work life and personal life or family. It's just one life.
It's one life.
Yeah.
And it's one life. Just making the best of it. So my child is also involved as much as we are, you know. Like, there's so much that he contributes. So there's this one sweet, which is very famous in our store, called Pataka Park. And so he just told me he asked me, walked up to me and said last week, Amma, what are we doing special for Diwali? I said, you know, there's so many varieties of new kaju and dry fruit sweets, because people like to gift good, you know, exclusive sweets, and, you know, see, these are new packages and all of that. I said, Amma, but Pataka Park, you know, the Pataka word resonates very well with Diwali. I think you should sell Pataka Park for Diwali.
Wow.
So I said, okay, sure. You know, I never thought of this. Although
You already have a brand genius.
We have the next in line ready. So that's how much work in life is integrated, I must say.
Amazing.
Yeah, and now we have our daughter, so she's also growing up to be one.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old is your daughter now?
She's 4.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And man, I'm really admiring the way you could balance all of this into it. So, we can conclude this with one last question.
Sure.
As much as we don't want to dive into the numbers of the business because it's all out there and you're doing great, right? But where do you see the next few years? I don't want to put a number or
Sure.
anything, but what I want to ask you is that, you're bringing so many people together and there is a lot about sustainability which you're doing, a lot of other things which you're doing, right? So where do you see the vision for India's sweet house in the future?
So this coming year, we're looking to enter IPO. So the next year predominantly will be to achieve that. Along with the expansion plans that we do. Of course, we're already present in a few districts today, including my Shimoga, Hassan, Lumpur and all that. But yes, we're looking to expand to other districts as well as part of the expansion plan. And certainly the vision is also to be the leader in that space of, bringing out authentic traditional mithai to the world. Right. So, the pace at which we're growing, yes, we can open more outlets even in the neighboring states. However, we also want to make it available to people where we are not physically present as well. Right. So we're probably looking at being available in the supermarkets as well, in other cities where we are not present.
Okay. So maybe by end of another 2 years, you will have another 50 more outlets? Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
We're at 35 right now.
Right now, yeah.
And I think by the financial year end, we already have, as we talk, we have 3 more stores where work is going on. So a couple of more by the end of
Any
this
possibility I can get some shares?
Sure. So yes, neighboring districts. Districts of Karnataka, all districts of Karnataka, neighboring states, and modern trade, which is being available in supermarkets.
Right.
For sure, like I said, IPO is ahead of us. So that's what we're looking at in terms of growth. While also keeping, sustainability in mind, we want to also, be very mindful of, what we do and how we do. So already, this last Earth Day, we've announced that people who bring their own box to our outlets,
yes,
right, instead of using our dabba to pack the sweets or our carry bag to take their box, if they bring their own dabba, we give them a 10% discount.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're being mindful of
sustainability.
Yes. Yes.
Very, very. So what does sustainability mean to you?
I think be mindful of your choices and leave no footprint, right? So whenever possible, do your bit.
Yeah.
Right? So we've kept to minimal, or no plastic approach. The Bengali sweets that we serve in our store is all made of the mud pots that is easily compostable, right? And the chart plates, because every day a lot of these plates get used up in the store. So these are all again eco-friendly plates. So this festive season, in fact, we've also introduced a bag which is reusable, because the amount of sweet distribution that happens during Dasara and Diwali, you can imagine. Each order, it'll reach many hundreds and thousands of people. So the paper, as much as it's a paper bag, it's still 1 or 2 or 3 use.
Okay.
Beyond that, it still ends up in, a waste bin.
Correct.
So not factoring the cost of these reusable bags, which is at least 3 times more than the cost of a paper bag. We still didn't mind it because these can be used over 100 times.
Wow.
So we've taken that route this festive season for gifting. So so we've tried to do as much as we can
Right.
by adapting these practices.
I mean, I'm sure it's a great challenge to implement sustainable practices when you have a set of semi-skilled or skilled labor who's working with you, right? Is there a way you navigate that, or is there a training program, or is someone dedicated to take care of that?
So like I said, the vision, right? You drive it to your next and then the next and then the next. So these kind of refresher training programs have to happen. They will keep happening. Otherwise, the end person will not believe in it.
With the conversation what we're having, I can literally, understand that your processes and systems are so strong, which is, and it's all because of the vision what you have.
Yeah, like I said, it's the two P's, right? People and processes.
Right.
That is your make or break of your business.
And thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
the
you.
podcast. And to during Diwali, when it's the most busiest time, you're here chatting with me. Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
and wish you all the best for whatever you want to do in the future. And we'll love to be part of the journey as well.
Sure,
In whatever-
absolutely a pleasure to.
Always happy to talk to Namma Kannadigaru.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.